With the holiday season quickly approaching, there is no better time than the present for me to take you guys along with me to the thrift stores, show you exactly how I thrift for the holiday season, the DIY projects, the plans I have for different pieces, and much more. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Starting off with likely the biggest purchase you will make this holiday season if you are in need of one is a Christmas tree. But I am here to tell you and remind you guys you don't need to spend these insane retail prices. You can check your thrift stores or check Facebook Marketplace. Some of you may remember my thrifted tree that I found a few years ago now. I ended up listing it on Facebook Marketplace because it was just a little bit too big for the footprint of our living room. We wanted a tree that was a little bit more narrow. So rather than go to Lowe's or Target or Home Depot, simply by just checking Facebook Marketplace, I came across so many beautiful Christmas trees. Ended up choosing this one here. Now it was 45 minutes away and I had to go pick it up and load it myself, but the savings overall is so much more worth it when you can shop secondhand. Moving along now to ornaments. This is probably, if you take nothing else away from this video, at least try checking your thrift stores for ornaments because they are always overflowing, at least at the thrift stores I go to. Now, just because it's cheap, it doesn't mean we have to buy it. So I do advise knowing the type or the theme of your tree for that current year before you just stock up on all of the ornaments just because they're really affordable. So to make it easy on myself, because I'm doing a cluster tree this year, I just decided to go with that traditional classic red color. I did have to supplement some ornaments from the Dollar Tree, but the majority of all of the ornaments I found came from the Goodwill bins or the Hartville thrift shop, and they were so affordable. In order to make these clusters, I just kept referring back to my inspiration image, grabbing some wire and some wire cutters, going to just remove any of the existing hangers that were there just because I wanted to make sure that I had room for the wire. If there were any imperfections in the ornaments, I just made sure to turn that side towards the inside, and once I put these up into the tree, I will be able to manipulate them more. Starting off with one of the larger ornaments, just making sure to thread that through twice so it acts as an anchor. But with that secure and in place, then I just randomly picked different ornaments, trying to scatter them as best as possible, just continuing to thread them through. For each cluster, I did anywhere between 18 to 24 ornaments total. Again, just making sure to vary the size and the finish of each of the ornaments so it looks more collected. Just making sure to leave a small tail on either end so then that way I will be able to attach it well into the tree. So between Dollar Tree and the thrift store, I spent well under $50 for all of these ornaments because this type of tree does require a lot of ornaments. Had I gone to Target, this would be hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And by shopping secondhand, you're really able to achieve that high-end look, but there are so many other ways to use ornaments besides just on your tree. And I find every color, every size, every style of ornaments you can think of. So if you have ornaments that maybe you're not using this year, consider adding them to a garland or turning them into a wreath or adding them just to a really beautiful decorative bowl to make some seasonal decor on a budget. I found this huge bag of ornaments and I was ready to pay full price, but then just donate basically all of them. I really just wanted this bag here, which was just $1, and then she ended up just charging me $1. One detail I really appreciated about these ornaments was the caps. They just look a little bit more high-end than just your average ornament cap, so decided to pick these up. Also at the Hartville thrift shop, I found this hook. I'm not exactly sure what it's supposed to be used for, but if you have a really special ornament that you want to display for some shelf decor, decided to just spray paint it black, and then there were only one of the ribbed ornament, kind of like the odd man out. So decided to use that, put that on the hook, and the rest will fill in a thrifted bowl. So for the bag of ornaments, the hook for one of the ornaments, and the bowl, I spent $4 for 2 pieces of seasonal decor. One of my favorite new releases from Pottery Barn for this collection were these giant ornaments, just to put on like your mantle or under your tree. While I did find some of the smaller sizes of those ornaments, I didn't find anything that was quite the same scale in order for it to be a fair fight. But I did find this chandelier here. And what was really interesting about this chandelier specifically is it was battery operated. Just decided to remove the chandelier component, and we just did something spooky for Halloween with this. But then for the glass, we're going to turn this shade into the largest sized ornament, so it's comparable to something you would find at Pottery Barn. So just gave it a really good clean so you get a nice smooth finish when you go in with spray paint. For the caps, you could use mason jars. I also tried out some of the lids of candles that just had that etching that you'll see often in higher end ornament caps. But in order for these to be the same, I just decided to use the bases of these Dollar Tree candle holders, and those were going to be our makeshift caps. But before adding the caps, I wanted to spray paint it first. So I tried a new spray paint. The problem with this foil red spray paint is it just leans a little bit too pink, and when it was fully covered, it just didn't really match my other ornaments. So I just decided to go in with a bronze spray paint, and then we are going to do an aging technique. Going to take a little bit of antiquing wax as well as this gold paint here from Michaels. I will link all of the supplies in the description box below, mixing those together until we get a nice aged brass tone. So to apply this, you could use a paper towel or a sponge like I'm showing here. It's helpful to wear gloves because this paint, if it does get on your skin, is very hard to remove. So I just kept applying different layers, leaving some spots darker than others to really get that beautiful aged brass patina. Very customizable. You could do any color that really fits your theme this year, but I love an aged brass look and I have a lot of it in my space, so for cohesion it works really well. When those dried, it was just time now to create our caps. Did the same painting technique on the bottoms of those Dollar Tree candle holders, just needed to hammer down, so then that way when I added this hardware here, it would be nice and flush. You could use E6000 or super glue gel like I'm showing here. Would not use hot glue here, especially if you want this to be a lasting piece of decor that you can bring out each year. Once that part cured, I then just added a small amount to the inside of these caps to attach them to our ornament shape. I also found this red satin ribbon at the bins and contemplated just adding a bow or some sort of a hanger or maybe even some jute here. So you'll have to let me know what you guys think down in the comments. But for under $20 to have these really beautiful aged oversized ornaments that can be incredibly versatile. I can put these up on my mantle or use for shelf styling or even under the tree, but a very fair price point if you're on a budget this holiday season. If thrifting the tree just seems a little much for you, this next part I want you to really consider, and that's just thrifting your picks and stems. Especially if you have a Goodwill outlet by you, that is the most affordable way to really get awesome Christmas stems and picks on a super tight budget. And don't be afraid to just combine a few things together for a really full look. So I found this garland at the Goodwill bins and this little mini wreath here for $1.50 from the Hartville thrift shop. Just decided to remove the buffalo check bows just because that's not really my style. And we're just going to combine these two pieces together. So I just removed that really sparse garland and we're just going to add it to this mini wreath. And mini wreaths can be very versatile. Again, if you have a hood range or a peg rail, the back of a chair. I contemplated adding that red ribbon that I showed you earlier, but I also found this belt here. Contemplated maybe just tying that into a bow instead, or just using it as a means to hang it from my peg rail. And that's why personally, because I make so much of my own holiday decor, I like to start fairly early. I don't actually decorate for Christmas, but I like to tinker with things now, so then that way when Christmas does roll around, I'll be super happy with the end result. When it comes to picks, I usually don't find more than 2 of the exact same picks. So one really easy thing to do, just grab the collection of picks that you find. That could be from a tree, that could be from a wreath. Just gathering them all together for a really collected feel and putting them in a beautiful thrifted vase. Floral arrangements that look pretty much identical to this at Target can cost upwards around $35, $45, and also everybody else has it. So for me personally, I'd rather have something that's completely unique to me and then also was so much more affordable. For the other one, I saw on McGee & Co. Hers are orange slices in that wreath, but I don't have any orange slices, but I made these grapefruit ones and they got just like a little too crispy for my liking. But I was thinking about just shoving these in here and then adding these thrifted berries. The only new thing I really bought were these berries. I can completely transform this wreath year after year by just adding simple things to it. If you are hosting in any capacity during this holiday season, cannot help you when it comes to these insane grocery store prices. And because there's not much I can do about that either, one area I like to save is the hosting essentials. Starting off with bar carts or tea carts. Found this one at the Hartville thrift shop. They called it a rusty tea cart. It was $15 initially, and then I had a 20% off coupon, bringing the cost down to just $12. So one thing I want to mention, the holidays isn't really the time I personally like to take on any overwhelmingly complicated furniture projects. So a really easy shortcut, if you have any woven pieces in your space that maybe you've thrifted and you just want a quick upcycle, this is the spray paint you're going to use. It just gives the most natural basket tone, and you can do this in about 15 minutes and you've completely transformed a piece of decor. Bar carts from high-end retailers can be just absolutely outrageous. So the fact that I was able to create this for $20 total is a major savings. For the wheels, I did decide to take those off, and again, they were rusty. So I just went in with that same brass spray paint that we used earlier in this video and just applied that to the wheels instead. Now just comes time for the accessories and styling it. So if you need any glassware, make sure you're checking the thrift store first, because you can find decanters that just really need a good clean. Any sort of cloche or cake stand, I find these all the time at the thrift store. Some of you might remember several months ago I found this little bowl here. So reminiscent to something I could find at Anthropologie or World Market, but it cost just about $1. Could turn this into a little candle, but I think I'm gonna opt for just placing some little treats inside of here. A vintage inspired Christmas is definitely trending this year. Even in places like Walmart, you're going to be paying way more, and you can go to the thrift store, find actual vintage pieces, but on a really tight budget. Another area worth checking, and it's not necessarily holiday specific, but I think a lot of people, if they have silver or if they have china, this is the time of year they bring it out. You can find really beautiful silver trays that just really need, obviously, a great polish, but bringing pieces like these out, especially during the holiday season, just adds that level of sophistication without breaking the bank. Here's a final look and an example to show you guys just how easy it can be to take a thrifted cart and then thrift all of the accessories for it, but it still can look absolutely beautiful. Moving along now to just your general Christmas decor. I think a lot of people have this generalization in their mind that what you're gonna find is broken or damaged in some way or just really out of style. But that's just really not true. So starting off with candles, you can find candle holders that look almost identical to something you would find at McGee & Co., but for a fraction of the price. But also in the form of scented candles. I find at least 1 or 2 scented candles every single season that is specific to the season at the Goodwill bins for pennies on the dollar. So check for candles. The next thing is Advent calendars. You can oftentimes find these at the thrift store as well. I think a lot of times people don't like to store them. Oftentimes they can be pretty bulky. So finding pieces like this at the Goodwill bins is generally the way I like to do it, and these roll up very easily. This is originally from Hearth & Hand, and I paid about $1 for it. For styling, I can add a sconce on top of it like this one, maybe add some additional ribbon to the hanger, and you can have such a similar look if you're on a budget. But if you're not having a ton of luck, one thing I want to mention is just the power of repurposing, like taking an old shoe organizer or a thread holder or a tie organizer. All of those things with little small modifications can be turned into advent calendars if you're on a budget. And while we're on the subject of repurposing, if ever you find a bell-shaped basket, those can be really great, of course, for Christmas. You can hang them behind a door or whatever, but you can also flip it upside down, use it for spring, fill it with some beautiful foliage, and it can really last you all year long. The next thing that I know you guys can find at the thrift store are seasonal cookie jars. Now, sometimes there is something wrong with them, so just make sure, especially at the bins, you're doing a really thorough check. But oftentimes they're in really great condition. Now, I didn't need to buy a new one this year because I already have two. Bought this one a few years ago, keep my Goodwill tag on like a badge of honor. Also found this one at the Hartville thrift shop several years ago. They were each just $5, which is a steal when you compare it to anything retail. So on the list, we've got candles, advent calendar, seasonal cookie jar, and now let's move into seasonal decorative objects. So these are just objects that you add basically as little toppers to book stacks or shelf styling decor. You just don't have to spend those Pottery Barn prices. Now, I will say, because you're going in prices so affordable, don't be afraid to change things to really customize them to your space. For example, I found these metal deer here. Now I'm just going to reshape them, spray paint them with some metallic oil rubbed bronze spray paint just to get them a little bit more similar to the look. The next thing I want to point out is unfinished wooden pieces from the thrift store, which in a lot of ways is really great because now you can go and customize and do whatever's gonna fit your space best. I know you guys can find this at your thrift store, like I found this little angel. Probably just going to add different wings that feel a little bit more modern. I also found these wooden sleds here. These could definitely be transformed into ornaments just with some stain and ribbon. But I have 4 of these and I was thinking about maybe just stacking them up on the wall, either filling them with some stems or using them for mail, using that rod there for a means to hook like keys and things like that. And speaking of sleds, this can also be a really great way to decorate for outside. So I found this one at the Hartville thrift shop for $25. You could also use this indoors as some dimensional wall art, but I plan on just putting this outside by my planters that will probably have some sort of pine trees in them. Just gonna give this a good sand, and I think it's just a really great way to infuse that seasonality, but on a budget. Another thing I have wanted to add to my outdoor space is a Santa's mailbox. And when I saw some of the prices of these, they just seem a little outrageous. And some of you may remember when I found that free stash of garage sale leftovers, and as I was sifting through it, I found a mailbox. Just decided because I didn't have to pay any money for it, I might as well give it a shot. So of course, brought it home, let it soak for a while in some hot water so I could remove any stickers or labels. Then just went in with a few coats of primer, and this is basically where it's at right now because I'm still deciding exactly what I want to do with this. But again, just by starting early, I'm able to save a significant amount by just doing things myself and customizing it into exactly what I want. Last but not least, let's talk about textiles for the holiday season. Definitely an area that can get incredibly expensive between blankets, pillows, tree skirts, any textiles you might want to use for tablescapes like tablecloths, napkins, runners, all of those things. It just adds up quickly, right? So even if you maybe don't find every single piece at the thrift store, if you can just chip away and find a few of those pieces at the thrift store, it can save you a significant amount of money. So this blanket, actually you can purchase on Amazon. It's not that expensive. I think it's like $25, but I paid under $5 for it. In addition to that, that pays for most, if not all, of my ribbon I will use this holiday season. I find so much beautiful ribbon at the thrift store. Spools that originally cost $20 for pennies at the bins. Specifically this year, I was looking for that classic red satin ribbon because I just want a very monochromatic gift wrap scheme this year. I was able to find so many spools, but I use a lot of ribbon, not just for gift wrap. I use it to make bows for sconces, or I'll wrap a book stack with ribbon, or of course on a wreath, adding it to a garland. So if you find ribbon at the bins, even if you don't necessarily have an exact plan for it, I can guarantee you eventually you'll find a way to use it. In addition to wrapping paper, gift wrap, ribbon, of course, gift boxes. I find so many gift boxes at the bin for every size that you could ever need, and they are, again, because it's based on weight, it's pennies in comparison to anything you'll pay for at Hobby Lobby or Target. Also found this fabric here. I'm not sure actually how it was originally used. There was only one end at the bottom that was closed off, so I do plan on embroidering initials on here and making like a jumbo reusable gift bag. Also, in the Christmas section, I came across this fabric here that's just this beautiful crushed red velvet that's just in that classic Christmas red color. So I do plan on turning this into a tree skirt simply by just taking a tree skirt that I already have, and I'm just going to use that as a pattern and add this fabric instead. Also, while at the Hartville thrift shop, I found this fabric here. Now this is a ton of fabric, so I could turn these into pillows, a few different tablecloths, use these as napkins, or a combination of the three of those. And for just $8, you just really can't beat it if you shop retail. But occasionally you can get lucky and find things that are just ready to go. So for example, I found this red tablecloth here. Definitely a great find at the bins. I also found this Hearth and Hand plaid apron. I'm not sure how much this cost originally, but I can pretty much guarantee it wasn't for just $2. And the only way I would ever buy sheets from a thrift store if it was perfectly packaged like this, brand new, never used. These retailed for $180 and they just cost me $11 because they were at the bottom of the bins. With all that being said, that really wraps it up for today's video. Several different ideas on ways that you can save this holiday season by shopping secondhand. And nothing else, I hope this video just encouraged and inspires you guys to check out your local thrift stores, see what you can find, see what you can come up with if you're on a budget this holiday season. I hope that everybody has a fabulous week, and I will see you guys back here next Sunday. Bye for now.